The Western church is losing people faster than ever. The question is this a good thing? Does our society still need God? Does the Bible still hold a place in our society today? I'm going to give my opinion on this. You may have a different opinion, but let's have a discussion. Give your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like, subscribe, and let's get into it. The Bible is the most influential book in history. Does it still hold a place in the world today? Should it still be read so heavily by all the people across the world? Would it be a net positive for us in America to continue to read the Bible? Let's find out. My reason for why the church is losing so many people today is plain English. That's right, English. English is the reason that the church is losing so many people today. English as a language is so messed up. There's so many holes in English. It's a conglomeration of so many different languages. And when you have a language that doesn't have definition, it loses the capability of carrying a defined message. And English as a language is a descriptive language made up of hundreds of other languages, drawing in words from the Germanic period, from Native Americans, from Latin, from the love languages, from the Roman languages, so many different languages that it doesn't have a piece and a hold itself. And how can a language, which in and of itself doesn't have very much definition, give definition to a book so filled with power? So many people probably don't realize this, because as America we can lose a grasp on reality. But the Bible itself wasn't written in English, and therefore whenever we try and read it in English, we lose a lot of what the meaning of the words are. The Bible, unbeknownst to a lot of people, was actually written predominantly in Hebrew, and the foundation of the Bible, the entirety of what is the Old Testament, was all written in Hebrew. And with that being written in Hebrew, and then the New Testament being based upon those original Old Testament scriptures, the Hebrew language is actually the language that has the foundation of the Bible and where we can have the best grasp on the meaning of the Bible. The Bible's foundations being in Hebrew makes a big difference to our understanding of the scriptures today, because English itself is a very descriptive language. It uses words to describe with like the colors and maybe the motions. But the big difference between English and the languages that the Bible was originally written in is the fact that Hebrew is more of a language of action. And whenever you try and translate something that is an action language to a descriptive language, you lose a lot of the meaning. So it makes it really hard. So whenever you're translating over from Hebrew to English to try and properly give the meaning of one word, you have to use between 5 and 10 to 12 or more words in English to use that one word in Hebrew, which really messes up as far as trying to have an understandable paragraph or an even understandable verse, which is why as the writers throughout history have translated the Bible, they've done their very best in giving a good definition and a good flow to the Bible. But for them to move it into English makes it really hard to understand the depths and all of the grasping that the words would have, all the power that those words would have. And it makes it to where you can lose a lot. And whenever we've stepped into a society that is a English-based society, very heavily English-based, it makes it to where our society is so descriptively written. In society and times today where the description of how people are labeled is so heavily important, and it's all about a label or a description or basically say a subtitle, that we lose a lot in the grasp of the meaning and the power. And English has been great for the advancement of America in an economic sense, in a trying to bring the worlds together under one language of trade and of business. But that language that has helped business prosper has made the church start to fall apart. And in my mind, I think this has been a net negative for society, because as we look as society has grown more deeply into this economic age where we are moving more closely together. We're talking more, but it's more of a descriptive setting. We lose so much of the power behind it. We've lost the power in our society. We're seeing morality at an all-time low. We're seeing civic unrest. We're seeing society and communities fall apart. In this past history, whenever we've been beginning to lose the Bible, we're losing morality. We're becoming a lawless nation. So as an answer to the question of would our society be better with the Bible, I believe so. I believe a society based on the Bible is a society with morals. It's a society with a guiding compass leading us in a direction, and that direction being a direction of love. The Bible speaks of love, and so many people today in our society, where our society is saying, oh, let us love, where if we found out the true meaning behind the Bible, we'd see that it's a message of love. It's a message of uplifting others. It's a message of charity. It's a message of help, but it's a message of personal responsibility. And what our society today has lost is that personal responsibility. It's so easy to want to let somebody else take care of something instead of taking the responsibility for us to do it ourselves. In everything that we do, it's so easy if somebody else does it, if we can throw it in a microwave, and if it can be just done as quick as possible, and there's no work behind it, there's no foundation, there's no strength, there's no power behind our society anymore. And this is something that we need to change. We need to take responsibility again. We need to become a society that has a standard. And I think a standard on the Bible is a good standard to have. It's a powerful standard to have. So the question becomes, does our society need God? Does our society need the Bible? In my opinion, I'd say the answer is yes. We need the Bible. We need God. We need an understanding. I saw a post the other day that said there's so much of a focus on the Bible in churches, and there needs to be less of a focus on the Bible. And I think that's completely backwards, because the Bible itself is the origination of the voice of God. People are like, well, just listen here or listen there. But there's no understanding of what you're listening to if you don't have a scriptural background behind it, if you don't have the scriptures in mind to understand what God would be saying. And we need to step back into a place where the Bible has a place in our nation. It has a place in our hearts. As a people that are following after the Bible, we become more of a net positive. God is a net positive for our country, and we need to step back into walking in alignment with His Word. Because if we were walking in alignment with His Word, not only would America be better, the world would be better. The world is going to fall apart without God. The world without God as a cornerstone to society is a world in chaos and destruction. We've seen it in cities in the civil unrest with rioting and everything, and it needs to stop. A society with God will not have riots, at least not to this scale. And we need to bring God back. I think it needs to start at the foundation at the very beginning. Bring God back into schools. If God was in schools as much as God is pushed in prisons, things would be different, and prisons would need to push God as much as they do, so that schools could bring up children that weren't so concerned about, let's say, trivial things of society today, but children that were concerned with the fact that they're created in God's image. When you understand that you were created and it gives you an ability to create and that you have a purpose, and if these children were told they have a purpose in life, then it would make society different. Instead of teachers having to have just a number and a check mark beside a kid's name and every student becoming just a number. You have a name. You're created by God. You're not a number, but He cares about you so much that He'd count every single one of the hairs on your head. And that's a pretty cool thought. So the churches have been emptying out. The churches are probably at an all-time low in attendance, and our society is at an all-time low. And I do believe that we need to step back into a place where people are jumping back into church, jumping back into a walk with God. If people were walking with God, there'd be a lot of other things and a lot of other problems that would just disappear. It'd be like by happenstance, they would go away. And I want to do a part in being an influence and helping people understand that they are called by God And if you've liked this, if this has been an encouragement to you, drop a like on the video, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with any questions you have below. And I'm going to throw a link in to a playlist that I've started where I'm trying to do a deep dive and break down scriptures so that we can have a better understanding of what some of these original words would mean, the power that would be behind them, and being able to see the scripture from God's heart instead of from how man has tried to describe it. Drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend, and check out my playlist where I'm expanding and getting power out of the scriptures in the Bible. The link will be right here. Bye.